to the Dive in About 5 for kindergarten. This scope is on comparing and ordering numbers 0 to 10. Hi, I'm Brittany.
I'm Kim.
Let's get started. All right, let's start this dive with a task. Take a look at this picture and think about what you see, what you wonder, and what you notice. What connections do you make to this picture when thinking about comparing numbers? Pause the video and discuss with a partner or team. All right, welcome back. Kim, what do you notice about this picture?
I noticed the Girl Scout has less cookies than Cookie Monster. I think Cookie Monster probably had more cookies because he really likes cookies.
Good observation.
Thank you. Previously, we learned about composing and decomposing numbers to 10. Now we're going to be taking it a step further and comparing numbers within 10 using various tools and strategies. We're really laying the foundation for students for the rest of their elementary career and even beyond that, because now they're going to be taking those numbers and comparing them within higher amounts and then even comparing decimals and fractions later on in 5th grade.
Students can start off with concrete models to compare. Concrete models include objects that students can physically manipulate. They may be those math manipulatives around your classroom, such as pattern blocks, snap cubes, colored counters. They could even be other non-classroom related items such as beans, coins, cookies. I've seen students or teachers put paper plates out to separate those two sets so that the students can compare numbers. If you notice on the screen, we have 4 snap cubes and 5 snap cubes. You may see students use a matching strategy to decide which one's greater and which one's less. Notice that each row is matched to the one next to it, and we can see which column has a greater amount. We also want to connect those comparison statements. So in the tens frame example, we see that 7 is greater than 5 and 5 is less than 7. We really want to connect those comparison statements to the concrete models so students can start to understand those comparisons.
Students have more of a understanding of how to use those concrete tools and how to compare numbers within 10. We want to make sure that we are moving them towards more of an abstract model when it comes to the pictorial representations. Now, students who are having trouble can still build their models with those concrete models and then just draw a picture of what they see. That way they're used to drawing the picture, but they still get the help from their concrete models. We want to make sure that students are able to draw the pictures themselves and really use items that they're familiar with and easy to draw. So they don't need to draw the puppy dog that they see. They can draw circles, they can draw tallies, whatever is easiest for them. We just want to make sure that they're taking ownership and they're able to compare those sets themselves.
To introduce those number lines when talking about comparison of numbers. Number lines can be used concretely and representationally. So when we have those number lines, we're able to possibly use counters to represent different plots on that number line, or students could even fill in missing numbers on a number line. When plotting those 2 points to compare, we need to remind students to count from left to right on that number line. Anything closer to 0 is going to be a lesser number, and farther away from 0 is going to be that greater number.
We want to make sure that students really understand how to use a number line before we expect them to use it representationally. So like Brittany said, having them understand filling in missing numbers, really understanding the numbers and how to use the number line before we're expecting them to plot those points and compare those numbers.
It's definitely laying a foundation for that linear model later on. Talk about a couple misconceptions students may have when comparing numbers. One of the things that students may do is they may take those 2 sets and try to combine them to find the total amount of objects that there are. If you see this, then we might need to go back to concrete and separate those two sets again, possibly on paper plates or two different bowls, and start to compare those two numbers as two different things as opposed to combining them.
Another misconception students may have is just comparing written numerals. So something that you can do is when they create their two sets, just writing the numeral underneath and really starting to use that language. That way they can compare the two sets while still seeing the numerals underneath.
Conception that students might have is they may perceive a comparison statement and its opposite as two different comparison statements. If you see this, let's practice switching those number sets to say different comparison statements. Take a look at those cookies on plates. I see that 3 is less than 4 cookies. We can switch those plates around and change our comparison statement to 4 is greater than 3.
It's really important to use those statements interchangeably in the classroom. Summarizing everything that we've talked about with our CRA model, it's so important to remember it's not a race to get to the abstract. Rather, we're connecting the C to the R to the A all together. There's so many times when students may start with that number sentence right away, but we want to make sure that they understand it. So we're going to bring them back to the concrete and representational to make sure they're making all those connections.
Thanks for tuning in for another math dive in about 5, comparing and ordering numbers 0 through 10. See you next time.